When presented with the opportunity to stay where you're at and stay complacent or move 2,500 miles across the country to chase your dreams, unfortunately, a lot of people choose the former. Sam, welcome to the Active Life Podcast.
Thanks. I didn't realize I moved over 2,500 miles.
You did. That was the distance from Spokane, Washington to Long Beach, New York. 2,500 and change. So I'm really excited to hear your story today, because one of the things that gets in the way for a lot of people when they're thinking about taking a big opportunity like this is either fear that it won't work out, fear that I'm not good enough, or relocating. Those are the two biggest obstacles that seem to get presented for people. And you've dealt with both and you overcame both. And I'm really excited to hear your journey. So let's start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into the industry?
So I grew up in Yorktown, Indiana, which is very close to Muncie, Indiana, over by Ball State. That's what everybody knows it as. I originally got into lifting weights and working out because I played softball, and I was a very overweight athlete at the time. And in order to get into better training shape for junior and senior year of recruiting, I started training with a boxer in downtown Muncie, where we would wear as many clothes as you possibly can. You name it, you can put it on, you're wearing it, and we're sweating intensely for an entire hour. That's how I got into fitness.
Reminds me of wrestling practice in high school.
Yeah, maybe I wore more clothes than those people. I didn't wear a trash bag, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so you got into fitness because sport.
Yep.
Softball primarily.
Yeah, needed to be in better athletic performing shape.
Okay. So you played in college, yeah? Softball?
Briefly.
Okay. So it took you played a little bit of collegiate sports. What happens next?
So after collegiate sports, I did the whole, now what do? I only know my life as a softball player scenario. And my dad is actually the one who accidentally turned me on to CrossFit because he said, hey, if you want to get in shape, there's all these people that run around downtown Muncie with their shirts off around the bus station. You should go down there and check it out. Looks like something you'd want to do. So that's how I ended up over there.
Okay. So you get into CrossFit. You had weightlifting in there too. Did that happen after you started doing CrossFit?
That started after CrossFit because I was way better at that and I got tired of CrossFit.
So like Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're into Olympic weightlifting for a little while. How do you make the transition to coaching?
I made the transition into coaching because at our first gym, Muncie CrossFit, I noticed when I was taking classes that the females in the gym were not really picking it up. They weren't figuring out the gymnastics. Their movement quality wasn't getting better. There was some sort of disconnect overall. And if you want to look at your client pool and you realize that there's a specific group of individuals that aren't really making the type of progress, is it really those people or is it the coaching? Are they getting what they need in order to get better? So luckily at that time I had a good, and still do have a good rapport with the business owner. He's a financial advisor, and then he owns the CrossFit gym on the side for like a nice fun hobby to have. And I approached him and said, I feel like you guys have this gap here. I don't know if you can see it at all. As a outsider and insider looking in, I can see that there's an issue here and it's not being resolved. And he had never noticed it before. Took a week to look around and said, I totally agree that we have a gap here. And then he said, do you want to be a coach? And I said, well, went to school for marketing and I don't feel like driving to Indianapolis to get paid $8.75 and I can make $15 an hour doing this or cleaning a gym. That seems like a better option. So that's what I did.
All right. So you start coaching in Indiana. How do you end up in Washington State?
I ended up in Washington. I'll give the quick bullet points on job jumping. So in Muncie, I was coaching and doing business development with my first CrossFit gym. I knew that I wanted more, and a small college town wasn't paying what I needed to pay to not have to do bartending and serving on the side as well. So then I moved to Indianapolis, where I was coaching and doing social media marketing with that gym. I was also still working downtown at a butcher shop and a brewery, and that's where I met the guys who owned the third gym that I ended up going to, because they were looking for someone that had a large presence. And if you're serving beer in a brewery, you have to be loud for people to hear their order. And I was wearing no bowls, so they were like, "What are those?" And I was like, "I do this." And they're like, "Where do you do that?" And I was like, "I do it over here." And they're like, "Do you love it?" And I was like, I don't know. And then they had told my friend that they wanted someone who could manage their northern location, because they had 2 locations at the time. So they told her that they were interested in me applying for that. So that's how I ended up there. So I didn't know what I was doing when I was managing that location. They certainly didn't give me the tools to succeed, unfortunately. So I learned a lot of what not to do through managing and coaching CrossFit while still bartending and working at the butcher shop. And then said I was, we hit COVID, lost over 50% of the membership base. So I was like, yep, this is it. I'm not doing it anymore. I can't pay my bills. This is ridiculous. My parents keep sending me job applications for different jobs at the hospital. Maybe I should just, cut myself loose and bow out of here. I then had a friend that I trained at the CrossFit gym who actually worked at a gym maybe 200 meters behind the location I was working at. And she said, "We're losing our head coach. We really need somebody to do this. And I don't know who else to ask." And I was like, "Nope." I said I was never going to do this again. I'm not doing it. I can't make it happen. And she said, "Well, I don't know anyone else." She was like, "If you talk to the owner," she said, "you can make your own hours." And I was like, "Now you have my attention. I get to make my own hours. So that sounds nice." Ended up working at the small personal training studio, and then Active Life offered their movement seminar for $99 virtually. So I said, well, that's a lot cheaper than the $1,500 I know I'd be paying for the seminar, room and board, traveling, maybe a bit more, and food. Did the virtual seminar, and my mom had $10,000 set aside for each of us, my sister and I, and said, "When you guys want any of this, let me know." And I had talked to someone from Active Life about next steps, and they said, well, if you want to buy the location that you're at, because the lady's offering you the gym to buy it, there you can do business foundations, or you can do immersion, which is now like the entry-level steps of ALP.
Yep.
And I ended up doing business foundations, did that. We got all the way through business foundations because I wanted to learn how to run a business, not just from my marketing degree at Ball State. I said, well, I don't want a bunch of me's running around that have 3 jobs, because that's not fun at all.
Yeah.
And when I get to the end of that, the lady who's asked me to buy her gym a few times decides that she's so emotionally attached to it, she can't fathom the idea of selling it anymore. Asks me if I want to be a co-owner. I say, absolutely not. And then I told Mary, I was like, here's my situation. Here's my resume. I will literally move anywhere in the United States. I'm single. I have 2 cats. I've done every single thing inside a gym aside from owning one that I can think of. What do you have? Yeah. And then Mary sent Sean my resume, and they looked at it, and they picked a few gyms around the United States for me to talk to. And I wound up in Spokane, Washington for 13 months.
Okay. And that was that a ProPath gym?
It was.
Yeah. So we've talked about that before. I've talked about it on previous podcasts before. ProPath is a product that we no longer offer that we used to. It was the gym owner mentorship side. Right. So, okay. So you end up at a ProPath facility. They're trying to operate through some of the principles that we have. What happens next?
So while I was out in Spokane, there were numerous times throughout the 13 months where they said, we're flipping completely to the Active Life model. We're no longer going to offer CrossFit. Every time they would send out that memo to their members, the clients would get super pissed because it's not what they wanted.
Right.
Then, they would take it back and they're like, oh no, we're not going to do it. Then they did that again a second time and upset people again. And it was just very clear that they were never going to fully flip over to the active life model. They had even talked to me briefly about buying the facility. Unfortunately, the circumstances that it had going on behind the scenes were not something that was wise to invest in.
Sure.
So I decided not to do that. And during that time, the ALP program was being offered to gyms to have up to 3 or 4 coaches enroll and do it for quote unquote free because the gyms were already paying for ProPath.
As part of their ProPath. Yep.
Yeah. So I was the only coach that enrolled in doing that,
Okay.
which is still interesting to me. The biggest turning point when I was at that gym was when a gym member had told me, they said, well, what do you know? You're just a CrossFit coach. And I was like, oh, yeah, I definitely need to get out of here because this is not it for me.
Not the culture.
No, it's like everybody's getting hurt. I'm not really making anybody a better husband, wife, coworker, XYZ. These people aren't reaching their goals that they set for themselves when they originally started because people aren't being assessed, and the people that are being assessed aren't really, super into it. Some people like the modifications that we provide. Some people just want to keep doing what they're doing. And at the end of the day, if you want to say, hey, we're a gym that wants to bridge the gap between healthcare and fitness, well, then in my view, it felt like a form of, healthcare malpractice because people are doing things that I know they don't have the flexibility, the mobility, or the balanced strength to be able to do. So I'm allowing it to happen. I'm part of people doing it. I'm part of the problem. So if they don't like the solution, the option is you can keep trying. For most people, it ends up, you got to get out of there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not what they, to the credit of the clients in the facility that you were at, right? It's not what they wanted. It's not what they came for, like a prescriptive solution to be assessed. They wanted CrossFit. They wanted the energy, the atmosphere, the excitement. Maybe, sure, they wanted to improve their health and fitness, but they wanted to do it in the group, right? They wanted the community.
Mm-hmm. They wanted to do it in the group. They did not enjoy when they would get injured. No one does.
Sure.
Not everyone loved the solution that was offered, though.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah. Well, it's just, like to your point earlier, it's not the thing that they were coming for.
No.
Right. All right. So you're in this environment. You're not able to provide the solutions that you're inspired to provide in the way that you're inspired to provide it. We end up hiring for the Flagship location here in Long Beach. And you were one of the first, you might have been the first application that I received.
Yeah, I was very intentional about that.
Yeah.
I remember when Sean had put it on Instagram, we're looking to hire 3 individuals to move here to Long Beach, New York and work at the first Flagship location. And I had looked at it and said, I'm just going to tell both of my bosses that I'm applying for this job. I want to apply this job because I'm no longer inspired to be here. And it was obvious they also weren't inspired as they were trying to sell the business. So I figured, well, if they're trying to sell the business, I don't think they're going to have much of an issue with me applying to work somewhere else. And they didn't. They're like, go ahead. We're happy that you were upfront and telling us that you were going to apply for another job. So after that, they were supportive in the process. And yeah, I remember it took over an hour and a half for me to fill out my application questions, even though it said this will only take 10 to 15 minutes. So I think that says more about me than the application process.
Well, you put a lot of thought into it. That was one of the things that came through that I appreciated. I mean, your resume, your cover letter, the application, there was a lot of thought and intention behind it.
Yeah. I also remember filling everything out, and I was at my friend's house, and I said, I'm just going to answer all of this as honestly as I want to. And if they hate it, then I don't want to work there.
Sure.
So because then I'm definitely not the right fit if they don't like these answers, and I would be miserable.
Yeah. All right. So what about active? Because I imagine at this point in time, you've identified you don't want to be in the place that you're in. You have other opportunities. What about active life was like, you know what, I want to move 2,500 miles, or I want to at least submit an application to see if I'm the right fit, if they're the right fit for me. What about active life was inspiring enough to you to want to work for this company?
Active Life was already doing what I wanted to do when I was presented the option to buy the small personal training studio back in Indianapolis. I just knew that when I left Indianapolis, I wasn't ready to ask anyone at Active Life, hey, anybody hiring over here? I knew I wasn't the person that was ready to even ask for that. So I said, what's the next best thing? Okay, the next best thing, aside from working for Active Life, would be working at a pro path or a gym that uses some aspects of the Active Life model, so I can learn more about what it is, how they do it, attend all these different calls that were being held with different Active Life mentors, and even Sean and his old mentor, Ken. I was like, all right, how much can I learn about all of this stuff, and then see what happens. It was like, you're already doing the things that I wanted to do. I'm like, I don't want to do CrossFit. I know I want to work more one-on-one with people that value being in a one-on-one scenario of, you know, actually solving the problem, not just working around it and any quick fixes. Yeah, it's all the stuff I wanted to do already.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a good alignment of, it sounds like a good alignment of mission, vision, and values.
Yeah.
What was it about the mission to help people live more, hurt less, to live a life of freedom without compromise that was like, I want to do that for you? What was it about that mission, that vision that was so inspiring to you?
I've already lived that life. I had back pain when I was, it probably started in high school when a girl kicked a basketball out from underneath me and I literally like slammed into the floor, and then her sister did the same thing to me the next year. And then, you know, it's the accumulations of, you know, training in the weightlifting room at high school with who knows what form was going on in there.
Sure.
You know, the training with the boxing coach where you're just beating yourself into the ground intentionally to lose weight. You know, I went through the whole, I couldn't sit for more than 5 minutes without being in pain or discomfort, which means you're already in pain by the time you get to work for the day, which means you're showing up at work as this grumbly, shitty, grumpy person who doesn't feel good and has to walk around and pretend like it's their best time of the day and it's the best day ever because everyone's showing up for the best hour of their life.
Right.
Yeah, couldn't bend over, couldn't put my pants on. You know, I've had shoulder issues from CrossFit, not having the appropriate strength that I needed or flexibility, mobility, all of the things. And with all that, couldn't walk uphill without back pain. So while I lived in Washington, did not do a lot of hiking out there, couldn't do it because quite literally you can't bend over or walk uphill. So I don't know how you're going to drive 8 hours across the state of Washington to go see where all the cool stuff is at.
Right.
None of the cool stuff was in Spokane.
No.
No.
Spokane was on the east side of the state, right?
Wrong side of the state
Got
to
it.
live in if you want to see the cool stuff. Yeah.
Was the weather nice there? I think about Washington, I think about Seattle, and I think about just rain all the time.
It was a mixed bag of stuff.
Okay.
Dry heat. You'd still get like the fire season when it's so smoky that you can't open up your windows and your doors and stuff like that.
Got it. All right. So it sounds like a lot of lived experience. Like you had gone through the journey of being the person who was in pain all of the time. And you started to identify how that was modifying your life in ways that weren't inspiring to you. And you're like, you know what? I got to get myself out of this. And I'm inspired to help other people.
And it also makes you relatable. If you've never been in pain, if you've like, and I tell this to, you know, our teammates and the people that walk in the door, I'm like, I've also, you know, I've had all these hormone issues. I've been over 300 pounds. If you've never been over 300 pounds and you've never like known what it's like to try to turn around and wipe your own ass, you don't get it. You can empathize
Sure.
as much as you want. If you haven't dealt with any of those things, you can try as hard as you want to be relatable. You just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something missing. To your point, as much as you want to empathize with it, there's no replacement for that lived experience.
Yeah, and I feel that is also missing a lot from just the general training area. Like, you look at a lot of personal trainers, how much they're young. There's a lot of younger people out there now.
Sure. Well, it's easy to get into, right?
Yeah. More younger than older, and there's not as much lived experience. It's easy to go online and get your certification to become a personal trainer over the weekend or just over the course of 4 to 8 weeks. And a lot of those people just started their life.
Yeah. And it's not disparaging. Look, that's where many of us have to start. But there's a difference between being at that point and realizing that you don't know what you don't know, and being at that point and feeling like you have all of the answers.
Oh, yeah. Even starting my training career when I was younger. A lot more average than you think you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard to relate when you're 25 to the 45 or the 50-year-old when you're just even having basic lifestyle conversations with them. You're like, look, if we can just get your stress diet and your sleep in a better position, and you're not factoring in all of the things that the 45 or 50-year-old has because you only have context for your lived experience at that point. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So you moved to Long Beach. Right, you open up with us. You open up the Flagship location. What excites you about building your career here? Why Long Beach?
It was the only location. That's why Long Beach.
Yeah.
I'm not a beach person.
Yeah.
I don't even like the ocean.
Yeah.
And I hate sand touching my toes. I didn't move here for the beach. That's for sure. I moved here for the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, like, why take the pursuit in this career then? It wasn't for the location, right? You don't necessarily care about living in New York or living in Long Beach. Why take the step to having the career here?
Where else are you going to do it? I already tried doing it almost completely on my own. I've worked for other people. I've seen the gaps. Unfortunately, not all business owners are open to seeing the gaps. And it gets frustrating, and you're chasing your own tail, and it's like, how much do you want to do this on your own? Do you want to do it by yourself? I even said 2 years ago when I was doing a video with Cleary, I said, if I'm not doing it here, I'm not doing it anywhere else. It's too much to do on your own to be able to have the impact that you want to have. If you want to do it more quickly and reach more people, you're going to be a lot better off doing that on a team than doing it on your own.
Well, you've been with us for almost 3 years now. We've been doing this thing. Why keep doing it here? Because you're a great professional. You've built up a lot of credibility, a lot of knowledge, information. I imagine you could do this on your own. Why still do it with a team?
I don't want to do it on my own. I don't want to spend the time searching for people, trying to remake a website that looks seemingly identical, to chase down someone to make testimonials, to break down. We had a whole meeting where we broke down the finances of what it costs to do it on your own versus what it costs to do it on a team. It seems almost ridiculous to me, at least, to not want to do it on a team, to want to do it by yourself.
Well, there's pros and cons to each, right? The potential ceiling could be higher as an individual entrepreneur doing it on your own. But to your point, there's a lot of the costs that get incurred, not just the financial, but the time, effort, and energy, where as a professional, your primary responsibility is service. And it's working with the person in front of you, and it's helping your clients. It's not all of the other business aspects.
Yeah, I'd be too tired.
Yeah, I get that. All right. Can you share with me maybe a recent client win or a moment that you were especially proud of?
Yeah. And I'm assuming we're definitely not saying names, are we? If they already did a testimonial?
You can say names.
I'm going to refrain from saying name.
Okay.
However, my favorite person, because I feel like this all had a bigger impact on this person as they're the same age as me. So when they came in, they had, the torn labrum, tried taking the year off from like volleyball. They played volleyball through high school, college. This was that person's thing.
Yeah.
And not being able to do it another year after taking a year off and realizing, great, my shoulder still can't serve or hit a volleyball in the way that I want to do it. This person was still dealing with, who am I without volleyball? So the cool thing is that not only did we build a stronger and more resilient body and muscles to support that structure in the shoulder to be someone that can play volleyball without pain and discomfort, they also were working on mental stuff, single, being the person that, a lot of volleyball players are tall and don't have a ton of muscle mass unless Midwest, I'm used to volleyball players with tons of muscle mass. So it was like new for me to come out to Long Beach and be like, what's going on here? When you're single and you don't look the way that you want to look and you don't feel good, I've been there. Single, don't look the way I want to look and I don't feel good. You talk differently to yourself. So, that person would speak negatively about themselves and I would say, why are you saying that? No one in this room said this. Why are you the person bringing it up? And then it leading to, I say these things about myself so that way I can be the person to beat everybody to the punch. And I was like, who are you hanging out with that's going to the punch? And they're like, well, no one's ever said it. I'm like, then why are you saying it? So being able to help those people build, personal development skills, have more confidence and put on more muscle mass and see themselves in a different light of, okay, I am actually really cool. I am actually, I'm really funny. I don't need to talk negatively about myself. And that individual ended up meeting someone and now he's been dating that person for over almost a year and a half now.
That's awesome.
That wouldn't happen if you're still, I don't know, maybe it could happen, I don't know. If you're sitting, at home by yourself, talking negatively about yourself, beating people to the punch about things that no one's going to say, you're fundamentally a different person. Yeah. And I think that at times, pain and discomfort robbing you of the thing that you want to do, in this case, volleyball, who am I without volleyball? Now I don't know who I am. What am I? Changes people.
Yeah. Pain can certainly change people. Changes the way that they see themselves. And even if, best case scenario, that person ends up in a relationship, I'm hard pressed to believe it's the type of relationship that they're going to be inspired by because they're not yet the type of person that can attract the type of person that puts them in a relationship that they're inspired to be in.
Yeah. That's what I didn't date anybody when I was in pain for over 4 years because I knew. I was like, I don't feel good. I don't look the way I want to look. I can't do the things I want to do. So who am I even going to date? Because I can't do anything that I want to do.
Right. Yeah, you can't be the person. Well, that's a huge credit to you. That speaks to the mentorship side that we talk about very often and helping people become the type of person who never really needed us in the first place. That's a huge thing that we do. And without the pieces that you're talking about, without addressing the self-talk, without helping them reshape their identity and not just reclaim their physical freedom, but be able to step back into the identity or even into the identity of the type of person that they're inspired to be, it attracts the type of people in their lives that they're inspired to be around.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think it's really cool too.
Who's your favorite type of client to work with?
We discussed this on a virtual community call a few months ago, and Natana helped me realize that it's not a specific individual. It's more of the type of person they are. Not like, I like working with people that have hip replacements. It's more, I like working with clients that are willing to, quote unquote, run through the wall, do anything they need to do to get the things accomplished. And if I look at the list of clients that I work with, over 90% of those people are doing the things that they need to do to put a small drop in the glass every day to get to where they want to be. The clients on the roster that I'm the lead professional for, they aren't the people that are coming in with, well, I didn't do this, because they're inspired by themselves and the person that they can be, that they're willing to do a lot of stuff to get where they want to be.
Yeah. They want something different, and they're willing to do something different, not just be the person who's like, yeah, it'd be great to have those things, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. Or here's excuse number 1, 2, 3 for why I can't actually do the thing. So, maybe I'll get to it someday.
Yeah.
They're taking the action.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. How has working for Active Life changed the way that you feel like you help people?
I believe that I help people a little bit differently, in the sense that we do learn how to ask more questions. Whereas when I would train people at CrossFit gyms that I was at, I'm like, all right, we're doing the assessment. All right, I know these exercises change this part of the movement assessment in order to get someone to have more flexibility or mobility, or these types of exercise help resolve this kind of pain the majority of the time. And we would just do the things that I knew what to do to get the outcome that the person wanted. Now we're talking more about sleep, quality of sleep, duration of sleep, what time are we going to sleep, when are we going to sleep, are we doing that this many days a week? Same thing with nutrition, same thing with stress management. We get to know the individual even more wholly than you think you already do.
So going back to the hierarchy, we're focusing, or you're focusing now a little bit more on the foundation and the base, rather than jumping to the exercise prescriptions, which I think a lot of coaches or trainers, they're under the assumption that's what people are coming to them for, is the exercise prescription. And we've talked about this before. That's probably 20% of the value that you actually provide to the individual, is the sets and reps and the specific exercise selection. It's the other stuff that you're describing that makes up the real value in a professional relationship.
Yes. And the great thing is when clients come in and they realize, I felt really great doing this last week. Why do I not feel that great doing it this week? I'm like, okay, well, what was different? And then they realize how important recovery is, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah. When you're not working with clients, what do you like to do?
I only do 3 things: eat, work out. I lied, 5 things: sleep, play with the cats, and video games. Yeah, those are the big 5.
Okay.
Yep.
How long? What's the name of your cats?
Joan Rivers and Maggie.
Okay, that's very specific. How'd you get Joan Rivers?
Because she's a deceased comedian. She's hilarious. Was hilarious. Still is hilarious. And my gay best friend and I thought it'd be hilarious because her name was Fiona, and I sure as hell was not going to have a cat named after Shrek.
Yeah.
Hey, what if we did? She looks like a Joan. Joan Rivers. You know how funny that would be to be like, Joan Rivers is under my bed. Joan Rivers is taking a shit in the litter box.
Got it.
Yeah. That's how we landed on that.
Nice. What's something that somebody listening to this might be surprised to learn about you?
I don't know. I already said the other ones. A lot of times people are, unless you go look at my Instagram, and even if you do, people are surprised that I used to be over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And I did that almost intentionally, because I had done all the, cut weight, gain weight, cut weight, gain weight with Olympic weightlifting, sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, working 40 hours at the gym, and then working at the butcher shop and bartending on top of that. No sleep, eating not a lot, training really hard 7 days a week, working, yet it just created the storm that said, you don't get to lose weight anymore. So you better teach your fat cells how to be fat cells again and figure out what you did to yourself. So then, the only two ways to fix that, people can try using prescription drugs, and sometimes that works, not too often. You usually have to do it holistically. And with that comes the caloric surplus. So continuing to eat and eat and eat until my body didn't want to gain weight anymore. Taking almost an entire year off exercise because the prescription was you can only lift weights at 30% of what you were doing. And I was like, I don't have it in me to do that. So I'll just go to yoga and walk. So I did that. Barely walked, hated it, and really didn't get into walking until I moved here. And yeah, you just gain weight when you do that. And that was the only way to resolve my issues. So that one always surprises people. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought I could lose it all in a year, just like tons of people do. That's not happening. It took 3 years. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's big. I would imagine not a lot of people know that about you.
Yeah. And I only have one kidney. That's the other one. So my attention to the varieties of protein that I eat do need to be more focused on how much of it comes from plants. A lot of people's favorite thing to talk about. So I get like protein from quinoa, and I still eat beef and fish and chicken and all of that. You just have to pay attention to what protein sources it's coming from.
Yep. What is, as we wrap up this conversation, what's something, a piece of advice or something that you wish people over 50 heard more frequently about their health?
That wasn't the question on the thing, so I don't have an answer.
Okay. Well, you can also think about it. Different question then. A piece of advice that you wish someone considering. Again, we're spinning up location number 2, right? We're staffing the professionals there, and we're still looking for a location lead and another professional to join the team there. A piece of advice you wish someone who is considering making a big move to pursue a career as a professional at Active Life.
I put this one on my phone because it took me a while to write down all of my things.
Okay.
I said, if you're coming to Active Life and thinking that you're just going to get better at writing programs, you'll definitely be in for a shock. I think a lot of people imagine you're going to come in and train people, and you're thinking, is my programming good enough? Can I work with clients at how they do it? Well, you don't know until you come here, first of all. But you will be kindly and directly, quote unquote, called out on almost any hole that you have in training people and in your life, your communication, and sometimes even the way that you think about yourself. It's like we have a new staff member and she's like, oh, my janky right knee. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, we're definitely not doing that. And you definitely better not let clients hear you say that, because that's not the way that we talk about ourselves. And it's definitely not the way that we want clients to perceive themselves as either.
Yeah.
That's probably the best part, even though it's my least favorite part sometimes.
What do you mean?
It's, that's enough. You know what that means. I think people can gather. I wrote down, you'll be pushed to slow down when you want to speed up, listening when you want to talk, and explaining why instead of just giving answers. Anybody can give you an answer. I think that people can struggle with why, 5 whys. The learning curve can feel steep, and at times you'll feel like you knew more before you started. I remember my first 6 to 8 weeks here, I was like, am I stupid? I thought I was so smart. Is this a joke? Like, did I just take a back step? And then to those people, like, that's when you know it's actually working. You don't think it's working at the time. You feel like you went backwards. You're actually moving forward in like this weird fast roller coaster. The people that thrive here don't just have technical skills. They're open to unlearning, to having their perspective challenged, and building the patience depth that truly helps clients with complex pain and training and life goals. It's not just a career shift. So a lot of people think I'm either going to go from doing this on my own to doing this with them. It's also a personal shift. So if someone isn't ready to embrace such a really big personal change and want to fight it, you'll find yourself likely almost out the door. Been there. If there have been attempts at trying to improve something with no change. Everyone here expects you to show up as a problem solver, not just a rep counter. And if people can lean into being more of the problem solver, then, well, even if it bruises your ego, you'll walk away with more skills and more confidence than most trainers will ever get in their lifetime.
Yeah, it's a rapid accelerator for growth.
Yeah, and you'll either get pressurized into a diamond or you'll be running around with your head cut off.
Look, man, we've talked about this before. The same pressure that makes diamonds or the same pressure that bursts pipes is the same one that makes diamonds. Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure for me to get to know you over the last few years. I think that you are, I've said this to multiple people multiple times, and I'll say it to you again. You are one of the best professionals that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. I'm so thankful that you raised your hand when the opportunity came up. It's been a journey for us over the last 3 years, but I'm super excited for where you're at right now. All of the things for you to come. You know, you were able to make a really good living doing just this thing. You're no longer the CrossFit coach who has to work at the butcher shop and do the bartending and the serving on the side. And I'm super proud of all of the work that you've put in over the last few years and where you're at now. And I'm excited to see where you're going in the future.
Wow. Thanks so much for your gratitude. It's almost overwhelming.
Is there anything else that you want people to know?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you for your time.
Thanks for yours.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you're going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.